The night air was thick with the scent of damp earth and distant fires, carrying whispers of unseen spirits. The moon, heavy and round, loomed over the quiet village of Umuagu, like a silent witness to the sins of men. Nnamdi walked swiftly, his heart drumming against his ribcage, as if it wanted to break free. He had told himself that this was the last time, that he would not return to her, but his feet carried him with a will of their own. Adanna's hut stood at the farthest edge of the village, where the trees thickened and the wind carried eerie murmurs. The villagers avoided this part of town, muttering about the spirits that roamed freely at night. Some swore they had seen Adanna talking to herself, weeping and laughing in the same breath. Others whispered that she was cursed, that something dark clung to her soul. But Nnamdi was lost in her. She had appeared in his life like a storm, shaking the foundation of his existence. He was a respected man, a husband to Ifeoma, a merchant of considerable wealth, and a father to 2 children. He had no business with a woman like Adanna, but she had bewitched him, trapped him in her snare, and now she refused to let go. When he reached the hut, the door creaked open before he could knock. She stood there, bathed in the glow of flickering candlelight, her long, untamed hair cascading over her shoulders. Her dark eyes bore into him, and for a moment, he felt paralyzed. "You came," she said, her voice a haunting melody. Nnamdi swallowed hard. "I told you I would." She stepped aside, allowing him in. The hut was small, filled with the scent of burning incense, and something else. Something metallic, like blood. He did not ask. He had learned not to question the things he did not understand. Adanna sat on a low wooden stool, watching him with an amused expression. "You look troubled, my love." "My wife suspects something," he confessed, rubbing his forehead. "Ifeoma is not a fool." Adanna's smile did not falter. Instead, she reached out, taking his hand in hers. "Then she must go." Nnamdi's breath hitched. He yanked his hand away, his pulse quickening. "What are you saying?" Adanna leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. "I love you, Nnamdi, but I will not share you. Ifeoma is in the way." "She is my wife," he hissed. "For now," she whispered. Nnamdi stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the dirt floor. "I cannot do this. You are asking me to commit an abomination." Adanna's lips curled into a smirk. "Are you afraid of the villager, Nnamdi? Do you think they have not already seen what we have done? Do you think they have not already judged you?" He clenched his fists, a cold dread washing over him. "This is madness." Adanna rose slowly, her slender fingers trailing along the wooden wall. "You knew I was mad when you came to me," she said, her voice eerily calm. "And yet, you could not stay away." She was right. He had ignored the warnings, ignored the whispers. He had let himself be consumed by her, and now she was demanding a price he could not pay. Or could he? A terrifying thought crept into his mind. Ifeoma was a strong woman, but she had no enemies. If something happened to her, the village would grieve, but life would go on. Would they suspect him? Could he live with the weight of her blood on his hands? Adanna stepped closer, running a finger along his jaw. "You love me, don't you?" Nnamdi could not answer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Then prove it." Days passed, but the torment did not cease. Ifeoma had noticed the change in him. She had seen the way he avoided her gaze, the way he barely touched his meals, the way he flinched when she spoke his name. One evening, as they sat in their hut, the children asleep in the next room, Ifeoma placed a gentle hand on his. "Nnamdi," she murmured, "tell me the truth." His stomach twisted. What do you mean? She searched his face, pain evident in her eyes. There is another woman, isn't there? His throat tightened. Ifeoma, She pulled her hand away. Do not lie to me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I have been a good wife to you, she said, her voice trembling. I have borne your children, stood by you through everything. Is that not enough? Guilt crashed over him like a wave. He had never seen her so broken, so vulnerable. I never meant to hurt you, he whispered. Her laugh was bitter. And yet, you have. She wiped her eyes and stood, her back straightening with quiet dignity. I will not beg you to love me, Nnamdi, but I will not allow you to bring shame to this family. Her words struck him like a slap. Ifeoma was no fool. She would not sit idly by while he destroyed everything they had built. That night, as she lay beside him, her back turned, he stared at the ceiling, the weight of Adanna's ultimatum crushing his chest. If he did not choose soon, the choice would be made for him. The following evening, he returned to Adanna's hut, drawn like a man walking toward his own doom. She was waiting for him, seated by the fire, humming an old Igbo song. You took long, she murmured as he entered. He sank onto the stool, his body weary. Ifeoma knows. Adanna chuckled. Of course she does. A woman always knows. Nnamdi ran a hand over his face. She will not leave. Adanna's eyes darkened. Then you must act. Nnamdi's breath came short. Adanna! She took his hands, squeezing them tightly. Do you love me, Nnamdi? His heart pounded. She leaned in, her lips brushing against his ear. Then choose. A shiver ran down his spine. She pulled away, her gaze steady. You have until the next full moon. His blood ran cold. Adanna smiled. If she is not gone by then, I will make the choice for you. The threat was clear. Nnamdi stood abruptly, his pulse hammering. You would not dare. She tilted her head, her smile unwavering. Wouldn't I? His stomach churned. He had seen what she was capable of, heard the whispers of the things she had done. Ifeoma was in danger. He had to act. But which path would he take? As he stumbled out of the hut, the wind howled around him, carrying the faint sound of Adanna's laughter. Nnamdi could not sleep that night. The walls of his hut felt like they were closing in, suffocating him with the weight of his choices. Ifeoma lay beside him, her breathing steady, but he knew she was awake. She had not spoken to him since their last conversation. The silence between them was louder than any accusation she could have thrown his way. His mind raced. Could he truly go through with it? Could he rid himself of the woman who had given him everything? His children, his home, his honor. But Adanna's words haunted him. If she is not gone by the next full moon, I will make the choice for you. What did she mean by that? Was it a mere threat? Or was she truly capable of harming Ifeoma? He could not take that risk. By dawn, he had made up his mind. He would send Ifeoma away, somewhere far, somewhere safe. Perhaps to her brother's village, where she would be surrounded by family. It would be painful, but it was better than the alternative. When the sun had barely risen, he sat beside her, his voice low. Ifeoma, I need you to leave for a while. She turned her head sharply, her eyes narrowing. Leave? To where? To your brother's place in Okija, he said, forcing calm into his voice. Take the children with you. I will send word when it is safe to return. She studied him for a long time. What have you done, Nnamdi? He swallowed, gripping her hands. Please, just trust me. You must leave before... Before what? Before Adanna carried out her threat? Before he lost everything? Ifeoma pulled her hands away. I will not go anywhere unless you tell me the truth. Nnamdi clenched his jaw. She would never understand. If he told her, she would fight. She would not run. There is danger here, he finally said. I cannot explain, but I need you to trust me. Her face hardened. You are asking me to leave my home because of something you refuse to explain? I am trying to protect you, he snapped, frustration leaking into his voice. Ifeoma stood, her gaze burning into him. No, you are trying to ease your guilt. Whatever it is that you have done, it will not be solved by sending me away. She turned, walking toward the door. Nnamdi grabbed her wrist. Ifeoma, please. She yanked her hand free. I am not leaving, Nnamdi. If there is danger, then we face it together. A sick feeling settled in his stomach. Adanna would not wait, and Ifeoma had just sealed her fate. As the days passed, Nnamdi lived in constant fear. Every shadow felt like an omen. Every sound in the night made him jolt awake, expecting to see Adanna standing over Ifeoma's sleeping form with a knife. He needed a plan. If sending Ifeoma away was not an option, then perhaps he could reason with Adanna. That evening, he made his way back to the forbidden part of the village, his footsteps heavy with dread. He found Adanna sitting outside her hut, her fingers idly playing with a strand of her wild hair. She looked up as he approached, her lips curling into a knowing smile. You took your time. He didn't sit. This must stop, Adanna. Her smile faltered, but her eyes held amusement. Must it? Nnamdi clenched his fists. I will not harm Ifeoma. I will not let you harm her either. Adanna tilted her head. Is that so? He nodded firmly. Yes. Her expression darkened. She rose slowly, taking deliberate steps toward him. I warned you, Nnamdi, she murmured. I gave you a choice. She traced a finger along his jaw, and he fought the urge to pull away. But you chose wrong. A sudden gust of wind swept through the trees, carrying the scent of something rotten. A shiver ran down Nnamdi's spine. Adanna leaned in, her breath hot against his ear. You will regret this. Nnamdi backed away. Stay away from my family. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned her back to him and walked into her hut, humming a haunting tune. He didn't wait to see what she would do next. He ran, but deep down, he knew. Adanna would not let him escape her grasp so easily. The night after his confrontation with Adanna, Nnamdi barely slept. When he finally drifted into an uneasy slumber, he was plagued by nightmares. He dreamt of Ifeoma standing by the river, her white wrapper soaked in blood. Her eyes were hollow, lifeless. She reached out to him, but before he could grab her hand, a dark shadow wrapped around her, pulling her into the water. He woke up with a gasp, drenched in sweat. Something was terribly wrong. He stumbled out of bed, his legs unsteady. The hut was silent, save for the soft breathing of his children in the next room. But where was Ifeoma? Panic surged through him. He rushed outside, his eyes scanning the darkness. The village was still, but the air felt heavy, unnatural. Then he saw it. A small bundle lay at the foot of the hut, wrapped in white cloth. Dread coiled in his stomach as he approached it. His hands trembled as he unwrapped the fabric. His breath caught in his throat. Inside was a dead chicken, its throat slit, its feathers stained with blood. A crude symbol was drawn in the dirt beside it, one he recognized from childhood stories. A death mark. Adanna had made her move. Nnamdi staggered back, his heart hammering. She was coming for Ifeoma, and he was running out of time. The dead chicken at his doorstep was more than just a threat. It was a promise. A silent declaration that Adanna had set her plans in motion. Nnamdi's hands shook as he picked up the blood-stained bundle, his eyes darting around the quiet village. The moon hung low, casting eerie shadows on the walls of the huts. He could hear the distant croaking of frogs, the occasional hoot of an owl, but everything else was still. Too still. He felt watched. With hurried steps, he buried the cursed offering behind his hut, his fingers digging into the damp soil with urgency. He had to act. He had to protect Ifeoma. But how? The next morning, Ifeoma noticed the tension in his face. She did not ask questions immediately, but her sharp eyes missed nothing. "Nnamdi," she said as she prepared the morning meal, her voice steady but firm. "What is it that you are not telling me?" He hesitated. If he told her the truth, she would be afraid. She might even try to confront Adanna herself, and he could not risk that. "I had a bad dream." He lied. Ifeoma stopped stirring the pot of yam porridge. She turned to face him fully, her brows knitted. A dream does not make a man look like he has seen death itself. Nnamdi exhaled slowly. "It is nothing you need to worry about." Ifeoma held his gaze for a long moment before shaking her head. "It is always the things we refuse to speak of that bring destruction." She turned back to the fire, but her words hung heavy in the air. Nnamdi felt the weight of them pressing against his chest. Destruction was already on its way. That night, the attack came. Nnamdi woke to the sound of something, or someone, moving outside their hut. Sound was unnatural, like footsteps dragged through the dirt in a slow, deliberate manner. His pulse thundered in his ears. He sat up, straining to hear. Then, a sharp tap, tap, tap against the wooden door. His blood ran cold. Beside him, Ifeoma stirred. "Who is that?" she whispered. Nnamdi shook his head, pressing a finger to his lips. "Stay here," he murmured. Slowly, he rose, grabbing the machete that rested near the bedpost. He moved toward the door, every muscle in his body coiled with tension. Another tap, tap, tap. He reached for the latch, hesitating for only a moment before pulling the door open. Nothing. The night air was thick and humid, but the village was silent. There was no one at the door. Then he saw it. A trail of bloody footprints leading away from the hut, disappearing into the darkness beyond the trees. His breath came in short gasps. His mind screamed for him to shut the door, to lock himself inside, but something inside him, some foolish, desperate need to end this, pushed him forward. He stepped outside, following the trail. The footprints led him toward the trees, toward the part of the village no one dared to go at night. The air was different here, thick with something unseen, something old. The wind barely stirred the leaves, and the silence felt unnatural, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. Then he heard it. A whisper. Nnamdi. His name carried on the wind, soft as a lover's touch. His skin erupted in goosebumps. He turned sharply, his grip tightening around the machete. "Who's there?" Laughter. Low, cruel, echoing from all around him. And then, movement. From the corner of his eye, he saw her. Adanna stood at the edge of the trees, her hair wild, her white wrapper barely concealing her form. Her dark eyes gleamed in the moonlight, and a slow, knowing smile curled on her lips. "You should not have defied me," she whispered. Nnamdi took a step back. "Leave my family alone, Adanna." She tilted her head. "Your family? You mean the woman who stands between us?" "Ifeoma is my wife." "She was," Adanna corrected. "You do not belong to her anymore, Nnamdi." He gritted his teeth. "This ends now." Adanna laughed softly. "Oh, my love, it has only just begun." Before he could react, She raised a hand and whispered something. Words he did not understand. Words that sent a violent shiver down his spine. Then the ground beneath him trembled. The wind howled through the trees, carrying with it a sharp, ear-piercing wail. The shadows twisted and moved, and suddenly a dark figure emerged from behind Adanna. Nnamdi's breath caught in his throat. It was Ifeoma, but something was wrong. Her eyes were vacant, her expression blank. She stood there, unmoving, as if trapped in some unseen force. Nnamdi's stomach lurched. Ifeoma? Adanna chuckled. She belongs to me now. Rage surged through him. You demon! He lunged, swinging the machete, but Adanna did not move. Instead, she whispered another word. Pain exploded in Nnamdi's chest. He gasped, dropping the machete as his knees buckled. He clutched at his chest, his vision blurring. It felt like fire was crawling under his skin, consuming him from within. Adanna knelt beside him, her fingers tracing his jaw. I told you to choose, she murmured. Now, I choose for you. Nnamdi's world spun, his consciousness slipping. The last thing he saw before everything turned black was Ifeoma's blank, soulless stare. Pain. It surged through Nnamdi like molten fire, searing his veins, suffocating his thoughts. He gasped for breath, but the air felt thick, like he was drowning in an unseen force. His vision blurred, the night warping into shifting shadows and flickering images. Through the haze, he saw Ifeoma, his beloved Ifeoma, standing lifeless, her gaze vacant, her body still as stone. Adanna's voice slithered through the night like a serpent. You were warned. Nnamdi tried to move, to reach for Ifeoma, to pull her away from the madness, but his limbs refused to obey him. It was as if an invisible weight pressed him down, pinning him in place. His pulse roared in his ears. He had to fight. With sheer desperation, he forced his body to move, inch by inch, until his fingers brushed against the hilt of his fallen machete. The moment his skin made contact with the cold steel, something shifted. A spark. The suffocating force around him wavered. Adanna's eyes flickered with something, surprise, perhaps even fear, before she masked it with a smirk. Oh, she whispered. You still resist? She stretched out her hand, her long fingers twisting, as if manipulating an unseen force. If she spoke another spell, he knew he wouldn't survive. With every ounce of strength he had left, Nnamdi gripped the machete and swung. A scream pierced the night, not from Adanna, but from the spirits that surrounded her, unseen but ever present. The very air around them trembled, and for the first time he saw something shift in Adanna's expression. Fear. The machete wasn't just a weapon, it was iron, and iron was sacred. It was one of the few things that could break dark magic. Realizing this, Nnamdi surged forward, his body still weak, but his will unshaken. He raised the weapon once more, this time aiming not for Adanna. He knew she was too quick, too cunning, but for Ifeoma. Ifeoma, who stood there, frozen in a trance. The spirits had bound her, and the only way to sever that bond was through force. Nnamdi swung the machete, slicing through the air between Ifeoma and Adanna. The moment the blade passed between them, Ifeoma let out a strangled gasp. Her body jerked violently as if something invisible had been ripped from her soul. She collapsed to the ground, her breathing ragged. Adanna shrieked, her face contorting in fury. You fool! Nnamdi ignored her, falling to his knees beside Ifeoma. Ifeoma! Ifeoma, speak to me! Her eyes fluttered open, her gaze hazy and confused. Nnamdi! Relief flooded through him. She was alive. But the battle was far from over. A cold gust of wind howled through the trees, and suddenly, the night darkened. The shadows around Adanna thickened, twisting and writhing like living things. She was not done. "You dare defy me?" she hissed, her voice no longer human, but something deeper, something older. The ground beneath them trembled. Nnamdi tightened his grip on the machete. "I will not let you take her." Adanna laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "Take her?" She took a step forward. "Nnamdi, my love, I never wanted her." His blood ran cold. "Then why?" Adanna's eyes gleamed with something sinister. "It was never about Ifeoma," she whispered. "It was about you." Nnamdi's stomach twisted. "I told you to choose," Adanna continued, her voice almost hypnotic. "But you never understood. I did not want Ifeoma gone because she stood in our way." She leaned in, her lips curling into a wicked smile. "I wanted her gone, because I wanted you broken." Nnamdi's breath caught in his throat. "She was never my true enemy," Adanna murmured, her fingers tracing a shape in the air. "You were." A sudden force slammed into Nnamdi's chest, sending him sprawling backward. His machete slipped from his grasp, landing just beyond his reach. Ifeoma screamed his name, but Adanna merely watched, her expression victorious. "You are mine now, Nnamdi." Darkness crept at the edges of his vision. His body felt heavy, his strength draining away. And then, a voice. Software. Strong. Familiar. "I reject you, Ifeoma." With trembling hands, she reached for the iron machete, lifting it, despite the weight of exhaustion pressing down on her. She stepped between Nnamdi and Adanna, her chin raised, her eyes blazing with defiance. "You will not have him," she declared. Adanna's smile faltered. "You think you can stop me?" Ifeoma tightened her grip on the machete. "I know I can." And then she did something unexpected. She plunged the blade into the earth between them. A shockwave rippled through the air. The spirits that lurked around Adanna shrieked in agony, recoiling as if burned. Adanna staggered back, her eyes wide with shock. "What? What have you done?" Ifeoma did not waver. "I have broken your hold." The earth trembled violently. The wind roared through the trees, and the sky itself seemed to shift. Adanna let out a piercing scream, her body contorting as shadows swallowed her whole. For a moment, she fought, clawing at the air, her rage palpable. But it was too late. She had lost. With one final shriek, Adanna disappeared into the darkness, vanishing like smoke into the wind. The silence that followed was deafening. Nnamdi gasped as the weight lifted from his chest. He scrambled to his feet, his heart still hammering. Ifeoma turned to him, her expression unreadable. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. Then, she slapped him. Hard. "You selfish fool," she hissed, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "You nearly destroyed us all." Nnamdi swallowed, his throat dry. He could not argue. He had betrayed her, betrayed himself. "I am sorry," he whispered. Ifeoma exhaled sharply. "Sorry will not undo this." Her gaze flickered to the place where Adanna had stood moments ago. The ground was still scorched, the scent of burnt air lingering. "She will return," Ifeoma murmured. Nnamdi nodded. He knew it too. This was not over. But for now, they had survived. For now, the night belonged to them again. The village of Umuagu remained still in the wake of Adanna's disappearance. But the silence was not comforting. It was heavy, like the air before a storm. Nnamdi and Ifeoma stood together, their bodies weary, their minds reeling from the battle they had barely survived. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Ifeoma turned to him, her face hardened with resolve. "We need to leave." Nnamdi blinked. "Leave?" She nodded. Adanna is not gone, Nnamdi. She was forced away, but she will return. And when she does, she will not come alone. His stomach clenched. He knew she was right, but leaving their home, their village, it felt like surrender. Ifeoma, this is our land, he said, his voice hoarse. Where will we go? Ifeoma's gaze did not waver. Anywhere Adanna cannot reach us. For the first time, he saw true fear in his wife's eyes, and he realized this was not just about protecting themselves. If Adanna returned, she would bring destruction upon the village. The darkness she carried would not stop at just them. The entire village would suffer for his sins. They had to act before it was too late. At dawn, they went to the elders. The council of Umuagu gathered in the sacred grove, where the oldest tree in the land stood tall and gnarled. The air was thick with incense, and the elders sat in a circle, their faces grave. Chief Okafor, the eldest among them, studied Nnamdi with piercing eyes. You have brought a great darkness upon us. Nnamdi lowered his gaze, shame burning in his chest. I know. The chief's voice was like stone, grinding against stone. And what do you expect us to do? Let you leave, while the curse you brought lingers behind. Murmurs spread among the elders. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked troubled. Ifeoma stepped forward, her voice steady. We do not seek to abandon Umuagu. We seek to end this before it is too late. Elder Anozi, a man known for his wisdom, stroked his white beard. And how do you propose to do that? Ifeoma hesitated. Then she did something unexpected. She took Nnamdi's hand. For the first time in weeks, he felt her warmth, her strength. We must face Adanna on our own terms, she said. A heavy silence fell over the grove. Chief Okafor's eyes darkened. You speak of things that are not meant to be challenged, Ifeoma. Ifeoma held her ground. Adanna is not an ordinary woman. If we wait, she will strike again, and the village will suffer. The elders exchanged glances. They knew she was right, but Nnamdi knew. This was their last chance. He turned to the council, his voice firm. Give us your blessing. Let us end this. For a long moment, the elders were silent. Then, Chief Okafor sighed. So be it. The journey to Adanna's last known hiding place was treacherous. The path wound through dense forests, across rivers where unseen eyes watched from the depths. The air crackled with an eerie energy, as if nature itself sensed what was coming. By nightfall, they reached the clearing where Adanna had once lived. The place was different now. Cold. Lifeless. The very trees seemed to recoil from the soil beneath them. Ifeoma shuddered. She is near. Nnamdi tightened his grip on the machete in his hand. Then, we finish this. They stepped forward. A gust of wind howled through the trees, carrying a voice, low, whispering, familiar. You came for me? From the shadows, Adanna emerged, but she was no longer the woman they knew. Her skin was pale, her eyes hollow, and an unnatural presence clung to her like a second skin. She no longer looked entirely human. Nnamdi's heart pounded. This was their final chance. You should have left when you had the chance, Adanna whispered, her lips curling into a smirk. Nnamdi stood his ground. I am not running anymore. Adanna laughed softly. Oh, my love, you never had a choice. She raised her hand, her fingers twisting through the air. The wind howled louder, and the darkness around her thickened. Shadows coiled at her feet, slithering toward them. Ifeoma gasped as an invisible force wrapped around her, pulling her back. No! Nnamdi roared. He lunged, swinging the machete. The blade sliced through the air and connected. Adanna let out an ear-piercing scream as the iron cut through the darkness around her. The shadows recoiled, writhing like wounded beasts. "You cannot stop me!" she shrieked. "I have seen the other side. I have become something greater than all of you." Nnamdi's breath was ragged, but he did not stop. "You are nothing but a curse," he spat. "And tonight, it ends." He raised the machete once more, but this time it was Ifeoma who struck. With a fierce cry, she drove the blade into the earth between them. A shockwave rippled through the clearing. The shadows howled in agony, twisting violently before they began to break apart. Adanna let out a final, guttural scream as the darkness was ripped away from her, piece by piece. She fell to the ground, gasping for breath, her body shaking. The shadows were gone. The curse was broken. The next morning, Nnamdi and Ifeoma returned to Umuagu. The village was untouched, the air lighter, freer. The elders met them at the entrance. "Is it done?" Chief Okafor asked. Ifeoma nodded. "Yes." The chief studied them for a moment before saying, "Then may peace return to your household." But Nnamdi knew, peace was not so easily earned. For the rest of his life, he would carry the weight of his sins. But Ifeoma stood beside him, and for now, that was enough. As they walked back to their home, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, Nnamdi whispered a silent prayer. Not for forgiveness, but for a second chance. And in the distance, the wind carried the sound of laughter, soft, haunting, but fading. Adanna was gone. For now. The end. If you enjoyed this thrilling and dramatic story, don't forget to like this post, comment your thoughts, and let me know what part gave you chills the most. Your support means everything, so subscribe for more epic and suspenseful stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next gripping tale. Let's keep the conversation going. Do you think Nnamdi truly redeemed himself? Should Ifeoma have forgiven him? Drop your thoughts below.